ducked off low key, yeah, you know me. Kickin' with Tyree, hit it 3 like Kyrie.
So my name is Ryan Darbonne. I'm from Austin, Texas, by way of Louisiana. Which side point, by the way, I think Milwaukee, if I remember correctly, has a really good media studies program, like grad studies program, which is like crazy. Anyways, I'm in grad school currently for film production. And my film is called Shut the Fuck Up When We Speak. It's playing South by. It's my first documentary. And I've been a filmmaker and a professional editor for a long time. I before I went back to school, was an editor on a animated series called Castlevania. And then before that, I'd done music videos, sketches. I was a rapper. Sometimes I'd like to think I'm a failed musician turned filmmaker because I feel like in another life I would have been a musician and not a filmmaker because it fucking sucks. I'm sure you know. But yeah.
Yeah, man. The title is what really stood out to me. Shut the fuck up when we speak. Like, when did you know that the film should be called that, and it had to be called that?
I think it's a you know that band Soul Glow? Have you ever heard of them?
I think I've heard of them before.
They're a
Yeah.
black punk band from Philly, and they've got a song called When I Speak, Shut the Fuck Up, or something like that. It's just a play on one of their songs, but it was also important because it's a film specifically centered around black men, about black musicians, and this idea of whoever has the microphone is the loudest, and so yeah, just it's almost like a not an affirmation, but just like a command. I feel like when watching it and allowing these people to have presence and allowing them to speak and have a platform.
How did you try to create space for these artists to feel safe to speak honestly, especially about being in a place that that doesn't always make space for you?
Yeah, I think it helps that I know all of them, and some better than others, but like again, I don't think I could have done this documentary if they were strangers to me. And I think just having that relationship and that familiarity or whatever, I think it just was an instant kind of like safe space, right? They knew it could trust me, I could trust them, that I wasn't gonna do some stupid shit or show them in a bad way, and just allow them a space to just speak.
That's dope. What does it mean to create art in a space that doesn't always make space for you? I'm from Milwaukee, so there's certain venues who won't even take hip hop. They won't even like make hip hop shows. They'll think it's gonna get violent. They think it's gonna get like this. Like, so we struggle with booking certain venues to get a bigger crowd. Like the biggest venue we have normally doesn't take local artists. So what does it mean for you to do like that? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm sure just like even being a filmmaker, right? It's still like these spaces, a lot of these spaces, quite frankly, aren't designed for us. Austin's the same though. I mean, like anytime when I was rapping in another life, I mean, there would be shows where this venue would have these crazy fucking like punk hardcore shows, whatever, that would get more violent than a hip hop show ever has been. But then when it's a hip hop show, they have added security, and I don't know if it's the same in Milwaukee. But it was just crazy to see, and I think, yeah, just I don't know, creating art in spaces that like I've always kind of done that though. Like I growing up, I loved hardcore and punk, and and I didn't see a lot of kids that looked like me. I'm also old as shit, so this is before the internet, and this is before you had access to a community of people, who looked like you, and you were kind of, your own lonely island. So whenever you found that other person of color or black person that liked the same shit you did, you kind of attached yourself to them quickly, but almost predominantly kind of navigated white spaces. And I played Magic the Gathering. I did improv for 12 years, and it's kind of carving out your own niche and kind of forcing it. When we did improv, we started one of the first black improv troupes in Austin, and did a lot of shows. I directed improv shows and plays that kind of centered blackness in a way that hadn't been done before. And again, it's a predominantly white scene, so no one ever thought about it. And that's why I'm attracted to and admire these guys in the film just because they kind of don't give a shit. They just do whatever, right? And it's again kind of forcing their way into this space that necessarily wasn't built for them or designed for them.
Mhm. And especially when punk rock comes from Black rebellion in a way. And like the history of punk rock is from Black rebellion, and it kind of spilled out to the suburban area of the Bay Area. So or at least for me, I feel like it started in the Bay Area and it kind of spewed out to like the Seattles, the Portlands, the Northwest. And what does it mean to have, a Black genre that has been kind of taken over, similar to country blues? What does it mean for that going forward? How do we take the things we created and make it our own again?
I think community helps. I mean,
Mhm.
and I'm sure I don't know if other people have feelings on this, but I think by the nature of just being Black, it's punk, right?
Mhm.
And how we navigate this country, and have always been rebellious and have always been, pushing things forward. But I don't know. I feel like community is a big part of it. And again, it's just like, yeah, it's 2026. We've had the internet forever, but the internet is so big in connecting people and making sure that people know history, right? Because I think that
Mhm.
we're not taught this in school. We're not taught a lot of things in school that we're supposed to be taught. I think just having a foundation and a sense of history, I think helps reclaim that position, especially for people. And I mean, even with community and internet, I feel like it could still feel lonely, right? Like being in these spaces or talking about this stuff. But I also think reclaiming that history is really important and important when moving forward, and also making films, and also like doing YouTube interviews. You know what I mean? It's just a way to like get it out there. And I think hopefully over time we reclaim it. I mean, it's what hasn't been co-opted, what hasn't been stolen from Black culture, right? You could name a
Yeah.
fucking 100 different things, and not just music, right? And so I think just knowing that, like, hey, this is where this started. And it's crazy because I feel like the similarities between like punk and hip hop, there's so much crossover, just of like how it started, the kind of griminess of it all, the sort of rebellion of it all. And, I think, but again, punk rock, most American music has its roots in Black history. So,
Mhm. Yeah. I see it in it's similar in like Milwaukee. We have a very unique sound. Like it's like a mixture of like NOLA, like clap beats, and like Detroit sounding like pianos. And I was at a show one time. My friend was throwing a show, and it was like all white kids on the stage, and it was like the sound of Milwaukee though. And I was like, who are these? Who are these kids from? I said it's this town called Cedarburg, and like probably like 20 minutes away from Milwaukee. I was like, who are these kids from Cedarburg on stage right now? And I was like, it felt like it was co-opted, which is fine. I like when things expand, but I also
right.
like that with punk rock, at least, I'm seeing it kind of make a turn where you see the Kenny Hooplas, you see the Paradox, you see these Black kids who love punk rock, who love the genre, kind of taking it over and taking it for their own and kind of bringing it back to
No,
style,
but
really, because
no, I love it, but it's still, you fucking scroll the comments of YouTube or Instagram and you just see how much shit they get, though. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
still, right? Even
yeah.
though they're reclaiming it and taking it back, right? I think it's like anything, you still have this kind of dying breed of old people that want to just hold on to this thing that was never theirs in the first place.
Yeah, and that's where history comes in. Was there a moment while filming this where you took a new direction just based on where the film was going and the footage you already had?
Oh, 100%. So this is like, I'm mostly a narrative filmmaker, and this is the first documentary I've ever done. And the original intent was to just be very, not basic, but just very obvious in the message of like what's it like being a Black punk, right? And that was kind of the question I wanted to pose to every person. And I'd done a couple interviews where that was kind of what we started, and then it kind of went off and we talked about other things. But when I did this one interview with the guys in Five Money, which is one of the two guys I interview in the movie, and I know them and they're great. And one of them was like, "We don't want to talk about that because we get asked that fucking question all the time." And I was like, "That's valid. Like, we don't have to." And they changed the total perspective of it, because I was like, "Well, I'm still interviewing like people in punk, but we can talk about it without talking about it, right? Just by very nature of who they are. Like, that's there, and that's the undertone." And I thought that was a really good direction that we went in, and I think it really helped the documentary. And again, we kind of touch on it a little bit, but it's not as obvious as it could have been or was going to be.
Okay. Austin has his reputation as a music city, especially with Southwest being there. They have people from all over the world coming there. Whose stories get amplified in Austin and whose kind of get overlooked? How do you feel?
Oh man, I don't know if you're still in Milwaukee, and I don't know what the racial makeup of Milwaukee is. Austin's a weird town. Austin is a very white town. Like, if you come from other places like Houston or Dallas, my family's in Louisiana, like, it's a pretty stark difference when you come here. And however, there are a lot of Black people and people of color doing amazing things here. And trying to, but again, you do, I think Black people still get overshadowed a little bit in some of these spaces. And I think it's kind of across the board. But there are people, artists, community activists. I co-run a Black Film Festival with a good friend of mine here in Austin, who are just trying to like share some of the spotlight a little bit, you know what I mean? And trying. And I think it's gotten better, and I think it's getting better. And I think people in Austin are receptive to things. I think it's just a matter of what gets attention and what doesn't.
Milwaukee, I always tell people it's the blackest city in America, but you will not know it when you come here.
Really?
Because it's so segregated, the way it's all set up. It's like the Black people live on the north side, Mexican people live on the south side, and then it's like, I might scratch the style. I call it the dirty whites live on the west side, and then the hippie whites live on the east side. But where everyone will send you is like downtown, the whiter areas, the more like, I'd say hippie white area. It's like the east side to Bayview. There's just a lot of towards the lake is where everybody's going to send you to go places. So you wouldn't think it's a very Black city until you cross over that bridge and you see nothing but Black people for miles and miles and miles. So
that's so funny. I mean, Austin is like, we definitely have a small Black population because there's like rising prices in homes and stuff, and people getting kicked out of their homes. So people are kind of moving to towns on the outside of Austin, but kind of a similar thing. You just kind of have to know where to look, and it's Blacker than people think it is. But definitely not as Black as like Houston or Dallas or anything like that. But that's crazy. I've never been to Wisconsin, so I gotta keep that in mind.
You ever go to Summerfest? It's probably, I say it's one of the better festivals in the States because it's multiple weekends. So it's like 3 weekends in a row, and it's multiple headliners each weekend. But there's multiple headliners there's like probably 10 stages, and there's multiple headliners on each stage.
Are the stages broken into like different genres?
It depends, like, on that day. So like if that day is hip hop, it's gonna be hip hop artists on that stage all day. So if the headliner on that stage is hip hop, it's gonna be hip hop all day. If it's pop, it's gonna be a pop artist all day. If it's country, it's gonna be country all day. They try to keep it like that, but sometimes it feels like they don't spread it out enough. Where it's like, okay, all the hip hop artists was on one stage one day throughout the whole 8-day experience of the festival, pretty much. So they used to spread it out more, but now it feels like they're trying to make sure they keep it all like within the same range so people can stay on the stage longer. But it's still a good festival. I've covered it a couple times. Hey, I don't show up until like 8 o'clock though. There's
That's
people
awesome.
who it starts at like 2 or 11 or 2. It's like it starts early, so people will be there at 2 o'clock until,
easy.
especially if it's somebody big. Like I can't. Who was it? Last year was somebody huge. I can't remember his name though, but people are there all day.
That's dope. I didn't. Yeah, I love that. I mean, we have ACL, which is okay. We used to have another festival called Fun Fest, which was great. It was similar. It was like multiple stages, but it was like, this is the metal stage, this is the hip hop stage, this is the rock stage. They always had really good acts and they were really well, but like it was really well curated. I really loved that festival. And it was only one day, one weekend, I think. But it's right.
Yeah, what Summerfest makes it nice is it's 3 weekends and you don't have to go if you don't want to. Like I say, you want to go to one thing, is on the last weekend. Okay, you can avoid Summerfest for 8 days if you can try to avoid it. Traffic is crazy because it's in one spot. But then after Summerfest, we have like Afro Fest, Puerto Rican Fest, all in the same festival grounds. So Summerfest has its own grounds, and it stays there all year. So they'll have like Polish Fest, Mexican Fiesta, and it'll just be music festivals pretty much from the end of Summerfest until the end of the summer.
That's super dope. I love that. I don't know if it is similar. Like South by kind of consumes Austin, takes over the whole city. I don't know if Summerfest is like the same. It's like,
yeah,
if you're local, don't have a reason to be at South by, you kind of just stay inside or like you don't really drive anywhere.
Yeah, thankfully it's on the lake, so it's like if you do live on a different side of Milwaukee, on the north side, or I live near the lake, so I can't really avoid it. Or if you live like west side, you could literally never see it. Like you can never see the traffic, you can never see the people for it.
Yeah,
but
that's cool.
Back to film. What are 3 films that got you into filmmaking? That's it.
Oh man. So I think it's kind of done in stages. I think the first film where I was like, oh shit, because for the longest time I thought I was gonna be like a children's author, like write young adult horror. Like I was really into R.L. Stine and like Goosebumps and Fear Street and stuff like that. That's kind of what I wanted to do for a long time. And then I saw a movie called Big Trouble in Little China. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Kurt Russell, John Carpenter movie. My stepdad introduced it. He introduced me to that and Akira. And I remember kind of getting the itch then, but it wasn't really until I saw, and I know this sounds really generic, but I was young at the time, but it wasn't really until I saw Pulp Fiction for the first time, and was just like, oh, and that was in like 10th grade, I think. I was in high school, and from there, I kind of, I again didn't really have available access to internet other than school, so I was buying screenwriting for dummies or like filmmaking for dummies or like what the fuck else did I do? I think Netflix was just starting to be a thing when you could only get DVDs. And so I worked at a movie theater and like all my money saved all my money, bought this giant expensive DVD player and just had Netflix and just consumed as much as I could. And so by the time I got to film school, I feel like I wasn't making anything, but I think I had a really good foundation in like history and like knowing film and cinema and stuff in that way. And I think that was kind of the gateway drug into that. Pulp Fiction and Big Trouble in Little China. And then the third one was probably this movie called Stranger Than Paradise by Jim Jarmusch. And that was sort of like, I was already into film, but I was like, oh, film is like artistic expression, right? Not just like cool, like fast cuts. Not to say Pulp Fiction isn't art or Big Trouble in Little China, but I think that Stranger Than Paradise is a very slow paced moving film, and was like, oh, you can have a really good film and have it be like this and have it be really inspired by European cinema, but it's an American film. So I would say those three.
I remember in high school I used to be at the movies all the time. I call it the triple feature. We would go to one movie in the morning, and it was before you had like assigned seats.
Yeah.
You go to one movie in the morning, then pay for one, you get three, and you just bounce to the next movie after.
Yeah. When I was an usher at a movie theater, I was usher for like 3 years, and I would see people do that shit all the time, and I was like, I'm 16 years old. Like, I don't give a fuck.
What are you gonna do?
I don't care.
Nowadays it's harder because they know who has seats. Like they know this seat is sold. So I'd literally go at 8, like an early showing. Like it'd probably be like an animation at like 9 in the morning or something like that. We go, then we end up. I think I like snuck into what was it, Lee Daniels, the Butler, one time, and then I went over to, I think it was Percy Jackson, the second one. Sea of Monsters. It was the second one. It was like I went from Lee Daniels to Percy Jackson, and then we finally went home. And I was like, how do we never get caught? Yeah, completely different movies. It was like we gotta, cool it off a little bit with the Percy Jackson because Lee Daniels, the Butler, was just sad. But
that's so fun. I miss doing shit like that though. Like, is there an Alamo Drafthouse in Milwaukee? Do you guys have this? Our big movie theater. It started in Austin, but then it kind of spread.
We have Marcus Theaters, so it's a little different. It's probably the same thing. Like, do you have like the Dream Loungers and stuff like that? Yeah, probably the same thing.
But before all that, yeah, it was nice to just get like a ticket stub too. I miss getting ticket stubs. And saving those.
I still make them give them to me. Nah, like I'll be like, hey, do you have a ticket stub? And they'll give it to you if you ask for it, but they won't.
That's dope. I feel like you just get it on your phone, or like, you have your like little code or whatever. It's funny enough, like being in school and being so busy, like I don't go to the movies as much as I used to. It's like we're in grad school to make films, and we're so busy making films that we can't enjoy like watching films as much anymore.
For you, do you see this film as a documentation or like a declaration?
That's a really good question. I didn't even thought about that. I would say a documentation, but only in just like kind of just highlighting very quickly like 5 bands that I really, really love and really enjoy, and letting the music that they make kind of serve as like a declaration. Yeah, I went into it wanting to create something that felt like a zine. And so we shot the film on like an old camera from 2001, except for one interview, and really did a lot of stuff and kind of creating this sort of thing that kind of felt like cut and paste a little bit in the edit. So it's a very flashy, I think, film, but still a documentation.
Okay, you shot them on old cameras. How did you go about upscaling it for South by?
Oh, I mean, it looks like shit. And it's like, you'll see, like, I mean, it's 1080p. Because the camera I shot it on was, I bought this camera when I was in college. And at the time, it was like one of the best prosumer cameras. So it was like still 24p, like, even though it was on tape. They used to shoot, they shot the first like 3 or 4 seasons of It's Always Sunny on this camera that I got. And so it's a powerhouse, and it still works fine. But we shot one of the interviews on like a new 4K kind of camera, and you could definitely and it was done on purpose, and you could definitely tell the difference. But I think I was going for that though, something that just felt grainy and a little grimy, and the colors on the old camera look great though. And so, we make the DCP, but I don't think it'll look.
I'm sure it'll look just fine.
Yeah, it's all intentional.
My closing question for you is going to be, When Black artists speak, what do you want the world to hear beyond music?
Okay, this is gonna sound like a weird response, but I'll explain. Mediocrity and failure. And I say that to say not everything has to be Black excellence, and allowing artists to fail, to experiment, to try shit and shit that may not work, as opposed to having to hit this sort of high benchmark all the time, right? And to allow Black artists to make mistakes. And I think allowing people the freedom to try shit, giving them grace, I think that's really important. Yeah. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answered the question. That's all I have for you today. We were about 25 minutes. I want to thank you again for kicking it with me. Great to meet you virtually. Hopefully I'll get to meet you in Texas when I get there.
Ducked off low key, yeah, you know me. Kick it with Tyree, hit it 3 like Kyrie.